Hello and welcome to Castle of Horror, the show dedicated to horror movies and awesomeness. This week we have a look at the 2022 film Halloween Ends. This is episode 384, and I'm getting over a cold, so my voice sounds a little bit weird, and I apologize. All right, bear in mind if you haven't seen today's movie, we're going to be talking about it from the perspective of horror fans who have seen it. So, warning, spoilers ahead. From Denver, Colorado, I'm your host, Jason Henderson, publisher at Castle Bridge Media, home of the Castle of Horror anthology. With me from Austin is Tony Salvaggio, lead singer and bassist of the band Deserts of Mars, and lead guitarist of the band Rise from Fire. Say hello, Tony.
Howdy.
Howdy. Also in Austin, Mr. Drew Edwards is the writer-creator of the long-running underground comic Halloween Man, which you can find at Global Comics. He is a Best Writer Ringo nominee, Austin Chronicle Best of Austin Award winner, and a member of the PEN America Fellowship. Say hello, Drew.
This is how it goes in Haddonfield.
That's right. I was so happy that this movie, by the way, started with classic rock, the same way that like many of them have. It wasn't Mr. Sandman. It was a Monster Mash song, but it was awesome. And finally, also in Denver, color commentary from the one and only Julia Guzman of Guzman Immigration of Denver. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. All right. Halloween Ends is a 2022 slasher film directed by David Gordon Green, written by Green, Danny McBride, Paul Brad Logan, and Chris Bernier. It is the sequel to Halloween Kills, which is the one that came out just last year. It is the 13th Halloween movie. It is the final film in the current trilogy that began in 2018. That one directly followed the 1978 film. So if you look at one of those layouts, there was a really wonderful recently of all the timelines. This is the end of the current timeline, well, presumably. And it brings back a lot of our friends. Got Jamie Lee Curtis, Andy Matichak, Rowan Campbell, Will Patton is back, Kyle Richards, James Jude Courtney is back as Michael, and Nick Castle once again appears at least once. So let's start talking about it. We're going to go to our opening thoughts. Julia, I'm going to start with you because we haven't started with you in several episodes. We'll go Julia, Drew, Tony, and then I'll go. So Julia, opening thoughts. Halloween Ends.
I'm chuckling because every time you start with me, you always say the same thing because we haven't started with you in a while. Anyway,
You know what it is? I think I know what it is. I
uh-huh.
think what it is every week I create the script and I look back at like who started us last week. So obviously the round begins again with Julia, right? So by the time you come around to the top, it really does feel like it's been a while. Although since it's all equal, it's always a while since anybody has started it.
Right.
It just so happens that
That's why it's
you
funny.
start the cycle, and so that's why it feels yeah. Anyway,
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, okay, I'm so excited to be talking about this movie. I had really mixed feelings about it. There were some things I was not a fan of, and some things that I thought were really interesting. I thought it took a little while to get started. Like it takes like 40 minutes for us to even see, the mask. And I thought it was really gory, which of course for me is not a plus, but for some people it is. But the thing that I thought, I know people have had mixed feelings about it, but I actually think it's a really interesting concept of this sort of accomplice Michael. Because I didn't hate the idea that Corey, like a lot of people seem to hate the idea that Corey does a lot more murders than Michael, but to
Corey is
me,
this new character who
the
starts wearing the
yeah,
mask in the films.
right.
Yeah.
Well, he's the new murderer, yeah. And but to me, this movie is a vampire film. It's a because I really when you look at it that way, as if you think of Michael as being kind of an I'm not going to say an energy vampire in the way that people think of the term energy vampire, but the idea that he is, we find out that he has been kind of just wasting away in the sewers. But as soon as he gets to kill somebody, he starts to recharge, and it's like, so that's like, not necessarily, he's not drinking their blood, but he is, but with their killing, he gets more energy. And I feel like he's also at the same time when he kind of attacks but doesn't kill Corey, he's kind of making him, like, what's the word, siring him, as a new creature, a new kind of immortal. And once, as soon as he does this, Corey no longer needs the glasses that get broken. He doesn't have any problem with his eyesight. He gets way more confident. So it's very much that vampire thing of like you're kind of becoming a little bit immortal, a little bit at a
Mm,
time. So I have a lot more to say about that. But that's my theory about this: is if you look at it as a vampire film, it's actually a really interesting
mm.
story.
Okay. All right. Wow. Okay. Let's get our opening thoughts from Drew. Where did you wind up here?
Well, I hate being right all the time. And I remember in 2018 saying that the one that they put out then, the first one of this trilogy, was so good
Mm,
that they were and had such a good ending that they were going to have a hard time topping it. And
mhm,
I stand by that statement, even though there is stuff and the other two movies that I do enjoy. This one is particularly weird. It reminds me a lot of Jason Goes to Hell.
mm,
Because one, it's something that's billed as this is the last Michael Myers movie, which, haha, I'll believe it when I see it. But it's set up to be a finale, and yet because of some choices that they make, it's not a lot of time is spent on the relationship between Laurie and Michael, and I feel like as a finale it doesn't quite gel. That being said, I did watch this entire trilogy now in reverse order for some reason. And I think it gave me kind of a unique perspective on the whole thing. And I think if they were able, and I'll get into this more later, but I think if they were able to move some of the elements around between the latter two sequels, I
mm.
think maybe there could have been a more satisfying storyline. Like if they had edited the other two scripts a little bit more. But yeah, like it has its moments. And I've been saying this up and down. Like the cast is incredible. Like the guy playing Corey really looks all the world like a young Michael Rooker, and so I couldn't help but thinking about Henry Portrait of a Serial
He
Killer
does look a
a
lot like
lot.
Michael Rooker.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But so there's definitely good stuff, but there's some weird choices that I
Hmm.
think keep it from being as satisfying of a finale as it could have been.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree.
Tony, where do you land in there?
So when I initially watched it, I thought that there was some really great parts and some parts I really truly didn't work for me. Like I was not a huge fan. It felt like I remember thinking at one point that it felt like, hey, I don't know if I wanted Apt Pupil as as a Michael Myers movie. But since then, and that's my own kind of thing. Like that's second guessing, what they were doing, because there's actually a lot of layers going on.
Hmm.
I think it's really well shot, and the kills actually are pretty fantastic. And in fact, as gory as they are, artsier than they might be in other movies. And I have some questions about some other things later, but I think the cast is great. I think it looks amazing. I think what turned me around a little bit though is having Max, my friend Max, who's been on the show a while back, and we often talk about horror. He's a big horror fan, and kind of a horror aficionado as well. He's got a lot of he and I talk about things even if we're don't land in the same places.
Hmm.
And this was a case that's different than our usual dynamic, where he really liked it. I didn't feel like I liked it as much.
Hmm.
And in talking, I had a few things I want to drop in there because he kind of reframed some things for me, and I wanted to kind of put that out there. Not, I feel kind of weird because this is a good friend of mine, and he's not here, so it's usually us. But like,
Hmm.
it goes back to that. You talk to friends about, like, you hang out after the movie, and but I think there's a lot. I think it's a multi-layered film, and I really think it's interesting that they swung for the fences in a few different ways,
Hmm.
and to really do a film about what's really the dread of Haddonfield.
Hmm.
Like the pervasive dread of Haddonfield
Yeah.
is kind of weighs everything, both on the victim side and just the kind of how that affects everybody. And I think they did a really good job. I want to talk about it more. I think there's I think it's interesting you said, hey, well, it doesn't have as much Laurie Michael kind of stuff, but the parts with Laurie where things are lighter,
Hmm.
I think they did a really good job on, and counterbalancing that with the darkness of it. I'm still torn. I didn't like some things as much, but I don't think that's the fault of the filmmakers so much as it is my headspace. Time and time again, I've said, like, you bring your own stuff into a movie, right?
Yeah.
But I don't. Me not liking parts of it doesn't have anything to do with whether or not it's a good movie. Because I've
Yeah.
seen other movies where I generally just think, like, this is a miss all the way through. I don't understand why you'd make any of these choices. This is not that film. There are choices that I question that I think would have been more satisfying for me. But I think what some people are reacting to is actually they chose to do a lot of things that weren't what you would expect.
Yes.
And that's going to work for some people and it's not going to work for others, because you'll have people say, oh, well, I just wanted a Halloween movie that had cool kills.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll have other people like, oh, it's the same movie over and over, right? For different, not necessarily this, but just you can't please everybody. So as an artist, you really do have to go with your gut and take those risks. And I think that they did that, and some of them worked for me and others didn't. But I think that I'm kind of glad they took those risks, because it did make it a more interesting movie in the nuance that's there. And it didn't have to be that nuanced either.
So I think that should be the first topic. I by the way, I do want to talk just about Laurie as her own topic, because I think she's fascinating, and I think she deserves some talking time. But I think the first topic to talk about is, this is a Halloween sequel, and my opening thought, and also really just teeing off this topic, is the easiest sequel you can make is like all the James Bond movies. Well, really up until the Craig era, which is the idea is every movie is literally almost down to the stopwatch. Every movie is the same movie. So that if you go, you're seeing the same movie. And in fact, it's such to the point where if you go to one of them and they deviate, or they let you down on one of those choices, you feel like you kind of didn't get what you were hoping for. And I think some people had feelings like this because, the easiest thing they could have done would have been really just to simply remake Halloween 2018 again, and I would have walked out just fine with, Michael. They don't think Michael's going to come back. Michael comes back. He kills some people. People don't believe that, there's a showdown. It's the end. Fine. I would have been totally.
Well, and we talked about that. It's, as a Halloween movie, there's hardly any Halloween in it. Like, there's
right.
no
And so there were
yeah.
there were choices here that I think were just big swings, and some that were mistakes. I think that they forgot, or they've creatively made choices for whatever reason. There's not a lot of trick-or-treaters. There's not a lot of Halloween in this Halloween movie.
It definitely
weird.
doesn't have the like kills, and definitely 2019 have a certain autumnal feel to them that is lacking here.
So
Yeah.
One thing that I saw it as, again, you're making a film that's the end, and what I felt about that was that once the town is just beset with, again, the kind of the gloom of Haddonfield and Halloween in general. Like, Halloween has been just messed up for years, to the point where it's fatalistically, oh, it's Halloween. So there's a party, but you look and there's people partying at a bar, and not so much out and about in the streets anymore.
And that's not even on Halloween. That party's not on Halloween. That party was like a day or two before.
It's almost like Halloween is kind of shadow banned.
It's canceled. Well, and I would have been fine with that if they would have said it.
Trauma is that.
Yeah, I think Tony, you're absolutely right that this whole town has trauma, which, of course, by the way, I don't know why any of these people still live there who experienced the previous Halloweens. There's no reason for it. But I agree that that the whole, like, the post-traumatic stress disorder that's hanging over the whole town is a good reason to not celebrate Halloween. However, I just feel like this should have been stated. Like, you got that radio DJ who's all like talking about Halloween. He should have said, we don't observe Halloween here in this town, blah blah blah. Something. I don't know.
Yeah.
See, when I was thinking about it, and again, I don't mean this. I hope this doesn't me talking down. I just viewed it as they won't do that because nobody wants to talk about canceling Halloween. Like, it's an unspoken, like, we just don't do that anymore. And if somebody goes, oh man, what's Halloween canceled? But dude, just fucking chill.
all of these are interesting points, but unfortunately, the series is called Halloween, so you have to have some Halloween shit in it.
You
Like
should, yeah.
yeah,
I
like
mean, I guess, but I hear you, Drew. I totally hear you. That's what I took from it, and to me, it's Halloween because that's the franchise name.
So,
or
but
the same.
okay,
To me,
but
it's
like
I think it has some of the. I think in the future, the way that Halloween 3 is viewed, we're like, hey, that was a pretty good horror movie. I think maybe some of the people who are like, screw this Halloween Ends thing, will come back around once they go, oh, it's
look,
really
even
this.
even Jason Goes to Hell has its fans because it's a crazy movie, and so you may very
Right.
well be right. But what I'm saying is, like, this is most likely whatever while I doubt this will be the last Halloween movie, this is most likely
Sure.
the last time we'll see Jamie Lee Curtis in one of these. They missed an opportunity to do something more definitive, I think, and
Mhm.
can't help but make me feel, again, I don't think this is a horrible movie. Like, I see people saying
Sure.
like, oh, this is the franchise worst, and I was like, have you seen Halloween 6?
yeah,
Like, have you
Oh,
yeah,
no,
like,
I
have
like
you
Halloween 6, but Halloween Resurrection, I think, is the one you would.
Yeah,
But to be
Halloween
honest with you,
Resurrection is easily that's the one my brain omits, actually. Like, I forget that one even
you forget that one
happened.
exists. Yes.
Yeah, like, because it's so blah.
But
Like,
can I go back for just a second? What my point is, the easiest thing you could do would be to just remake the previous movies, and then most people would be fine with it.
see, I don't
And
know. I don't necessarily want a remake. I just wish that this movie had a little bit more to say about Laurie Strode. Like,
yeah,
I feel like it, unfortunately, because they introduced this new character,
yes.
Corey, who is admittedly an interesting character. Like, I was engaged by his story arc. I think the actor does a very good job, but
I would love to know why they decided.
it's a
Because
little
these are.
strange
I'd love
that
to know why they decided, hey, gang, David Gordon Green sitting down going, listen, fellas, I got this. I see it in my brain. Let's spend most of the movie actually on this new character and how he gets twisted by Haddonfield and becomes a serial killer.
But
I
again,
think
I don't
that's
have
our
any
story.
problem with that. I think that's fine. I
See,
think it's interesting to have him be new. And in fact, I think they could have, if they wanted to, at the end, had his body disappear too.
I wish
So
they
that
had his body disappear. Yes.
yeah, and they might have, 'cause I don't know what happened to his body. But I think it'd be interesting to just kind of have this movie, and I recognize that the next film will not pick up on this continuity, but this movie, and with the possibility that there's another kind of Michael Myers type, like
well, they
out there.
even gave him an alliterative name like Michael Myers.
Yeah.
But
I guess you're right.
the
But his name is an homage to
What is it?
who is it? It's
Corey Feldman?
no, it's what's his last name? I'm just trying to remember. It's Cunningham.
Yeah.
His name is an homage. He is the character is an homage to Arnie Cunningham from Christine.
that makes sense.
Really?
Because it
Yeah.
says when we're introduced to Corey, and this is from IMDb, in Halloween Ends, he's shown to have a similar haircut, an identical blue button-up shirt, and black glasses that Arnie has in Christine.
Huh.
So that's-
Actually,
Okay, I believe
his
it.
arc is a lot like the character in Christine.
yeah.
Yes.
But like,
Yeah.
I'm like, if this was just another Halloween sequel, I think I would be fine with all of these choices. Like,
Right.
but
you know
again,
there's
it's the
another one
last
coming
one.
in 2
Yeah,
years.
it's the
Yeah.
the last one that'll probably have Jamie Lee Curtis. I would have liked more, like, and to your point, Tony, this is what I am bringing to it, but I would have liked more focus on the relationship between the two of them, especially now gone back and watched the other two, because it seems like everything is to like a sort of battle royale. And
I agree that I would have liked to have seen more Jamie and Michael, but I think we got some really interesting stuff for Laurie's character. I really thought.
So let's talk
I
about
agree.
Laurie. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that the thing with her, I thought the thing with her and Will Patton and Frank, that's Frank, I think, didn't get enough. I think he could have been a lot more but the stuff with them kind of having their flirty friendship, and then her being kind of smiley and happy, and then being confronted with the lady who's like, you've basically ruined our lives because why did you taunt him? So basically this idea that she and Corey both are being bullied by this town that's got this PTSD, all of that I thought was
Mhm.
really interesting. And I thought the relationship between her and Corey was really interesting.
Certainly, but like one of the things, especially going back and again watching this in this sort of weird order, her being at peace in this movie makes no sense with what happens in the previous movie. Michael
Sure.
Myers murdered her daughter. Like, I think if, again, I hate that I'm gonna fanfic it, but like if you could like move around some of the elements and you took the idea that she thinks Michael's dead from Halloween Kills and somehow injected it into this movie, all of that would make click more for me. That she thinks he's dead and buried and she can move on. But like baking pumpkin pie and
I actually, I have to admit, I was fine with that, and the reason why is because it was a different note. That was a risk that I liked. I
it
like
just
that
doesn't make
she's.
it didn't make sense to me.
Well, but I
People,
think it's the idea is that it's just
No,
going to be too tiresome if she's always
it would have been.
the
I would have been
same.
so sick of a
If
third
somebody
film.
had killed my kid and I knew that they were out there, like I would not be at peace with the
Yeah,
I
world.
but
mean,
Like it just
there's a
doesn't make
rainbow of
sense.
flavors when it comes to humanity. I don't have a problem with a choice that goes
It
this
didn't.
way.
It felt
Uh,
false to me.
Okay, fair. But
so
Tony wants to
yeah,
say something.
oh, I have a lot to say actually. Hopefully
yeah, go
people
for it.
aren't bored
Me
with this.
too.
But so I understand where you're coming from, but there's a lot of layered nuance to this. She's not, you see it one way, and in talking to Max, like this is why this didn't come about because of that, but like it started, there was more of it today when I was discussing it. So I picked up on was she of course is angry that her daughter was killed, but it's more of the acceptance and the futility of how long can I go against the tide, because she talks a lot about the therapy of like letting this go and the fact that she's got her granddaughter with her, and that anger was eating her alive. It also caused all of these people problems. Like that's why she's crying when the woman comes up, she's smiling and all of a sudden she gets accosted, and the whole town's doing that, which is why she feels a kindred
Although
spirit with Corey. But
although
her whole deal
technically,
is, go ahead.
go ahead. Sorry, it's gonna what I would say would change subject. So go ahead.
But it's not that she's not angry at Michael Myers. It's not that that doesn't come up all the time. She talks about it, even like she's made this choice. She's writing about it. She's actually literally choosing her words and writing as a catharsis to say that, or attempting to say, about, do you let this consume you? And so her whole thing is, this is a town enveloped by gloom. She has a life now with her granddaughter. She's trying to pick up the pieces. Is she going to let that anger just constantly burn? But
Right, yeah.
later on, we also get things like where she does let that out. When she confronts Corey, she actually is concerned, but also back to Michael. She does things that Michael Myers. She tells him like, "Hey, you want to stab a tire?" The same way Michael Myers says, "Hey, do you want to stab people?" When she goads him later to get away from her family, she throws him a paper airplane. I picked up on him, and again, we talked about it earlier today. He was building paper airplanes for that kid who died. Like that's a mean-spirited Michael Myers
Yeah, she's
thing to
definitely
do to him.
poisoned as well. Oh, by the way, I do want Drew to go ahead.
But like I saw it, the way I saw it was not that I have to do this all the time. I was fine with her and also having some lighter moments, because she's kind of written out of the second half of the previous one anyway.
Yeah.
I think that was a mistake as a choice as well.
I do too.
Having her here, try just like, I cannot at my age devote more time to revenge that also I realize helped wreck this town and keep this gloom here. I was totally okay with that.
Yeah,
It made sense to me.
I want Drew to say what he was going to say, but then I want to, before Jason, you move on to whatever else, I want to go to the beginning because I do want to talk about the kid's death. So just mark
Yeah,
that.
we
But Drew,
absolutely should talk
say
about
what
that.
you're gonna say. What you're gonna say.
Well, what I'm gonna say actually kind of ties into that eventually. The idea that this is Laurie's fault, and I understand why she reacts as she does because she's got survivor's guilt, but
Sure.
it's nothing that has happened from the previous 3 films is actually her fault. It's Michael's psychiatrist's fault and the fault of this podcaster. Like, it makes sense in the way small towns operate, and this is 100% the most lived in. If you look at these 3 films and the way they connect together, this is the most lived in, believable version of Haddonfield out of every.
I agree totally.
Yeah, like they do a fantastic job of making it seem like a real place. But nothing actually that happens in this trilogy is Laurie's fault. Like, even the events of Halloween Kills, like, if the fucking fire department had just let Michael Myers burn to death, like, you know, like, I mean, I know they're just doing their jobs, but like, it is heartbreaking to me that people are saying all that, though it is, to your point, it is factual that, like, people in towns like this, they make up their minds based off of hearsay, and they will just say whatever damn thing they think is the righteous thing. And this movie does have a lot to say about that, and you know, to what you were about to talk about, Julia, like the opening sequence in this with the kids, you know, that the accident, and the, you know, the way people have just like decided, well, Corey's another Michael Myers because he killed this kid, never mind that it was an accident. Like, that is really on point. Like, they do a good job of kind of the power that gossip has in small towns.
Oh, hell yeah.
Let's talk about this accident, and then let's talk about I want to get to these bullies, and nobody talk about what the deal is with these bullies until we get there, because it's fascinating. Okay, but Julia, let's talk about the amazing sequence that opens the movie.
I want to say a couple things about this. Number one, we meet Corey because he's substitute babysitting. He's not a usual babysitter, but he's substitute babysitting for this kid. And for some reason, this house is a 5-story house, which I'm just like, I don't know why, with like spirally stairs, which are super cool, by the way. Really neat staircase. And so this kid, this is kind of one of those things where I feel like I would have liked to at some point have gotten some background about why Corey has the issues he has. Like, I feel like we need more about his childhood, because this kid lures him by freaking him out, making him think that maybe Michael has him, and even to the point of stealing a knife out of the kitchen where it would be obvious that he took it. So making it seem like like Michael or somebody else has him. He's screaming for help, the kid is. And so he lures Corey up the stairs. Corey sees the knife on the stairs, grabs the knife, goes up, and the kid's screaming and screaming, and lures him into the attic where the kid then locks him in. So that's super obnoxious. What a little shit. But my question that I had about at this point is, why is Corey, like, because I have claustrophobia, so I would have liked to have known why Corey clearly also has claustrophobia. Like, is there anything there? I mean, for me, I don't know why I have it.
There's definitely some weird shit with his mom.
He's got weird, right? Like, maybe his mom locked him. I'm just saying, I would like to have more about his background, because we do see that he's a really oppressive mom, and so maybe she locked him up. Like, that's very.
So
possible.
what you're saying is, as long as we're going to spend the first 40 minutes with Corey, we may as well spend the whole movie with Corey. Really?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying we could have had a few lines here and there about why he is the way he is. But anyway, so he gets locked in by this kid. Finally kicks the door open because the kid won't let him out. And right as the parents are walking in, the kid, when he kicks the door open, goes flying off the top floor of the stairs and crashes to his death. That is a shocking beginning. It is shocking. Like, I was just like, oh my God, I could not believe that. So I thought that was kind of brilliant. And honestly, I get why people, you know, are like, well, did he push him? Like, was that on purpose? I get that. I get why the gossip. So that, I think, is a really interesting choice for an opening.
It also makes you stay on your toes for the rest of the movie, and that's one thing I will say this movie does an excellent job of like, because they establish like we're going to, because this is like a perfect slasher setup where you have
Absolutely.
the obnoxious kid, and you're thinking this whole time that Michael Myers is going to somehow pop up,
Sure.
Yes.
and then the kid's killed by happenstance.
Yes.
And like it really did make me second guess everything that happened after that, because they went there, because people don't die by accident in these movies. And I actually
Right.
Not very often. Yeah, you're right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I kept expecting them to go back and reveal that Corey had killed him on purpose or something. Like that is a ballsy choice that I really respect. The fact that they did that.
It's once again playing with this thing where you in the audience, and this is rare, and so to some extent I'm thankful for this movie actually causing us to have this conversation, right? Because it's one of those things where you're sitting in the audience and you expect certain things from a movie, especially because this is the final film in a cycle of films. They're doing stuff that probably, if it were the middle film in a cycle of like 5 films, you'd be like, oh, that was the one that was about Corey mostly. But instead, because you're watching the clock, I'll use I statements. Because I'm watching the clock, I'm sitting there, I go, this is a 2-hour movie. I want to see Laurie kick Michael's ass. This is all fascinating, but when are we getting back to what this series is about? And
Right.
so that's really strange, because it's causing me to not give enough to that film. And what's interesting to me is that kind of sucks. If you're a
Can I
creator,
pose a question to the three of y'all? So this is
Yeah.
something I've been thinking a lot about. What if instead of this being a proper Halloween movie, what if they had like one step removed on it, and it was like a pastiche of Halloween? Like
Right, and
all the
if it wasn't-
characters
yeah.
had different names. Would people be because I could tell you that if this was like an homage movie, I probably would respond a lot positive to it, and I would be thinking, "Oh, this is all very clever. This is all very clever." But because it's called something, I want more Michael Myers and I want more Laurie Strode.
There's another
Or like I
example
said,
of
if
that.
it was a Dracula movie, if Michael Myers was Dracula instead, and it was
Yeah.
just he was siring this.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Dracula has tropes. Michael Myers has tropes, like these iconic horror characters.
And you're defying them. And the funny thing
Yeah.
is, online, the conversation is very interesting and then quickly grows tiresome, because you have people who go, I didn't expect a thing, and I didn't expect this or that, and other people going, but this is intending to upend your expectations, and then they just start fighting with one another because
Well,
but that's happened before, because I was thinking about Dark Shadows. Like Tim Burton got the Dark Shadows license, and he made a Dark Shadows parody. People who showed up to the movie were thinking they were going to go watch Dark Shadows, and instead what they got was like a comedy based on Dark Shadows.
This is a much better
Ugh.
film than the Tim
my
Burton.
point is my point is
I would
so many different ways.
yeah.
no,
Like,
but this is a good example. My point is, if he had called it something else, because the aspect of people's expectations is just as large a force as almost anything else. When you defy people's expectations, you don't give them what they're expecting. You run a great risk, no matter how good you are, and that's it's fascinating.
That's why I keep going back to Jason Goes to Hell, which, by the
Right.
way, this is also a better film than Jason Goes to Hell by like quite a
Oh,
mile.
uniformly from front to back, this is it's even, we're complaining about the story, and yet it's very well written. I mean, the lines are good.
But-
There aren't any like false lines. This doesn't feel like in
but-
Halloween 5 when people talk like it doesn't sound false in that way.
But the
Go
thing is about Jason Goes to Hell is it has a banger of an opening where they literally blow Jason up, and then you don't have Jason for the rest of the movie, and Jason is what you paid for. So I do have empathy for that, because like you see all the posters for this, and it's Michael and Laurie, and they're back to back like it's a boxing poster, and so you go in with an expectation,
Yeah.
and like you
What
don't
do you say
get
to
that. So
What do you say to the people who posted that when they stopwatched it, that Michael Myers is only in the original Halloween for 9 minutes, and in this one he's in it for 10 minutes?
but like, first of all, never bet against John Carpenter, because John Carpenter.
Well, I got you. I'm just
but,
saying,
like,
if your metric is how much screen time Michael Myers gets,
It's
and there's more
not
screen
about
time
the
in the
absence of
original,
Michael. It's about the presence of Corey, which is a strong story.
I
and
got
it
you.
overwhelms the movie.
Jason just said what I would have said like 1,000
That's
times
fine.
better.
I'm merely getting the kind of the framing of it, because
Yeah.
when I saw people who said, "Oh, there's not enough Godzilla in a Godzilla movie,"
Here's the
Yeah.
I
thing, though,
timed it,
Tony.
and there's
Here's
10 minutes or 15 minutes of Godzilla in
Here's the
most
thing,
Godzilla
Tony.
movies.
Though here's the thing: in the original Halloween, whether or not Michael Myers has a bazillion hours of screen time or 2 minutes of screen time, he is still the engine that circulates that plot around. Whereas
Sure.
in this, he's hanging out in
I
a
got you.
sewer, and this new character is the thing.
No,
This is also the 13th movie in a franchise. So like even Godzilla movies don't have that much Godzilla in them. Like, they still revolve around Godzilla 9 times out of 10.
Can I
Like,
change tacks for
That's
just a
fine.
second?
I'm not saying that one way is right or wrong, because I think some of
I
what
don't know. I
disliked
don't know
about
it
was
either.
in the
Like I
same way.
said, I've spent days going back and forth about this. Like, because I've been like,
Right.
like, on one level, it's kind of cool that it kept me on my toes. But I still feel disappointed. So, like, I don't know.
I want to talk for a minute about.
I still feel like. Go ahead, Jason. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. You can finish that. Yeah.
I mean, I still feel like things that didn't sit well with me. For example, I'm still in the, like, sometimes, like, wow, when things are super mean spirited, it kind of puts me I don't want to use take me out of it, because that's kind of it doesn't ring in the same way. So I think, like, the tag team duo parts were not my favorite parts at all. I thought that was a strange choice, and it didn't really resonate with me. On
you
the
think
flip
part of
side,
that
you do have
is-
somebody who yeah.
Sorry. Well, I was going to say, do you think part of that is because up until that point, you do have some sympathy for Corey as a character?
Well, I want to. I mean, you do you kind of understand why he does the things he does. Dude gets thrown off a bridge by complete and utter assholes.
Yeah, go ahead and tell us about the
mean-
nature of these bullies, by the way, because I find this to be one of the most wonderful things I've ever seen in a film. They are, I'll say it, they are band geek bullies. They are a
I
gang
thought it was
of
fascinating that
roving
the band geeks are
drill
jocks,
sergeants.
including
Yeah.
the one with the really unfortunate haircut.
I love these guys. I as bullies go.
Ah.
I was waiting for them to all get killed.
I
They
didn't
do
like
get
them, and
killed.
I actually thought 2 of them had really unfortunate haircuts. The girl and the guy. No, I was not a fan. I think it was really funny that Jason liked them, and I was like, no.
Well, I just
this
love
is
the
where I would have wanted
idea.
to take some of the
He,
time.
I don't think he wants to hang out with them. I just think
No,
he finds
but I
I
just-
just love the
the
idea
cultural
of a roving,
shift different.
yeah, a roving band of dangerous band geeks is funny. It'd be like if
Oh, a
all the
roving
people who work at
band
your
of
yogurt
band
shop were
weird.
serial killers. It's
Yeah.
great. It's
It's silly.
I
don't know.
thought, like, having been in band, I was just like, wait, what? This is like, I mean, yeah, you do get your
Exactly.
potential Letterman jacket, but you're like, everybody's
You
in
nice.
we
my
don't know
small
what high
town
school
was
is
still
like.
in band.
We're all middle-aged people. We don't know what high school is
I
like now.
understand that, but I was wondering.
I do
I'm
because my
legit
kids have
curious.
friends that are in band, and I know what they're like.
Oh,
I don't care
fair.
how old you are.
Well, I was
Band
I
geek
was
bullies.
legitimately curious if what you're saying is true, Drew. Like, has band turned into this? Because I've
No.
never seen that in the history
Band
of ever.
kids are sweet. I mean, not all. They're not all
It's-
sweet,
it's
but they're
only
definitely
in
not this way.
It's only in Haddonfield.
Yeah, Haddonfield
and
is
it's-
twisted. That's the thing. Haddonfield is twisted. Even the band nerds.
Yeah, I
The
love
band
it.
nerds are jocks, and they're
I-
the same jocks. By the way, they're really similar jocks. I don't think there's a connection, but not long after this, I watched Trick or Treat again,
Mhm.
and the jock bullies in Trick or Treat act so very similar to the way.
Yes.
I mean, to the point of causing bodily harm. Like, there's a scene in Trick or Treat where they're just throwing them around the shop,
Yeah.
like into walls, and they're throwing Weinbauer all over the place, into Mark Price, into walls, and throwing wrenches at him, like all this stuff. And they act really similarly. And again, I think about it a lot too, because that movie I really like, because also Mark Price's character kind of goes, whoa, maybe the Sammy Kerr thing was not a great idea. And the difference is in this movie, they make the choice to go, you know what? The whole town is horrible to me. They're horrible to the people I like. I'm going to embrace that. And why not get a little bit back for me,
Well,
including
okay,
revenge?
I have a question
And
about
that is like,
this.
ooh, I don't know.
I have a question about this because this is also something that's been rattling around in my brain, and unfortunately, like this goes because these filmmakers have said up and down, and we talked about this with Halloween Kills too.
Yeah.
These filmmakers have said up and down that they consider Michael Myers to be an exceptional human being, but nonetheless a human being, like not supernatural. And yet it looks for all the world like he looks into Corey's soul and kind of possesses him.
Yeah, it sure does.
So,
yeah.
So that's what I was gonna ask that question in this podcast. So again, in our discussion, I think it hinges on when Max and I was talking. Again, sorry people, I'm this discussion because I need to talk all this out. Like it really hinges on if you think that's just a metaphorical, he sees a kindred spirit and that was the best way that they could show that, or do you think it's supernatural? I viewed it initially as supernatural. Other people are viewing it as metaphorical because it's only one way. It only works one way. Like Corey doesn't see Michael's kills, right? He's not like passing. It's not like a spirit, or it's not like jumping from body to body like the Shocker,
Like fallen.
right?
I
Yeah.
think it's
Or the mask,
there's
or the mask.
ambiguity
It's absolutely
there.
ambiguous.
But
Right.
the thing that makes me lean more into supernatural territory is the homeless guy that Corey kills is also claiming that he is Michael Myers.
Right.
Yeah, I thought
right.
that was really interesting.
And I think that's part of what took me out of it. And again, it took me really kind of sitting down and going, okay, well, somebody who likes this more than me, let's talk about this. And I think that's one of the points where you're kind of either there for it or not. And it took me out of it initially. But if the argument is, hey, that's metaphorical because it only works one way, and that's the way that they showed it,
it's not metaphorical.
Kind of
That's
makes sense because if that's the case, then it becomes once again the gloom of Haddonfield, the
It's
oppression of
definitely not
Haddonfield.
metaphorical because he survives so many times that he gets killed, and then he gets more energy when he kills people, and then he passes on, kind of like I said, the immortality to the other guy. I totally see it as real.
Although like Corey makes the biggest mistake of his young life when he decides he's going to snatch that mask.
Sure. Yes. He
like the
definitely goes
moment-
down a
the
path, and you're
moment-
like, okay, well, he's a serial
Well, it's
killer
not
now.
even just that. Not even just that. Like the moment he took it, I was like, "Yeah, Michael Myers is gonna hunt you down and kill you and take his mask back." Like that's like he had to know that was going to happen. Like, I mean, I know Michael seems diminished to a degree at the start of the movie.
Yeah, can
but
we
when
talk
he's-
about that? I want to talk
Yeah, I
about
was curious
Michael.
about that too.
So I think it is I don't personally care for it as a choice that Michael begins and more or less stays so diminished, especially because just 4 years ago, and 4 years moves quickly when you're in your 60s. Just 4 years ago, this Michael was on that porch. He swung that little axe he had, and he said, "All right, 30 firemen, come get me," and he slaughtered all of them. Like
he also beats the shit out of a heavily armed crowd
So that's just 4 years
after
ago.
being
Yeah. So he was Von Damme. He was hard target himself 4 years ago, and now he's shuffling. And I just that felt like
that
a
is another
discordant note.
thing. That is another thing that I think if you could somehow shuffle the events around and like you have him, them thinking he died in the fire somehow, and then you have him show in the sewer, half alive, and then he starts kind of coming back the more people he kills. That to me narratively would have made a little bit more sense. I don't understand why he's so weak, other than if we're going to go off of, again, they outright say in Halloween Kills, and what the point that Julia also keeps making is that he kind of needs to murder people to like rev up his his
Yeah, his mojo.
slasher batteries. Yeah, like it,
Yeah, I mean, I was curious because he's so just like Corey pushes him around, and it seems like if I can't, I should have rewatched it to have this point. I thought that the Corey pushing him around part was after they'd like gone out and hung out and killed together.
No,
which
I don't think so.
which was weird, like because on the one hand he's like pushing him around and they're fighting, and then he pushes him down. It's like, not me, old man.
That's just when he decides he needs the mask. But remember, when he gets the mask is when he goes. Wait,
right.
which mask does he kill the doctor with? Is that
he
with
has
the
the scarecrow mask.
Okay,
built in.
so at that point,
Yeah.
he hasn't gotten the mask yet from Michael Myers, and then he's going to go later and be like, okay, I need that mask now because the scarecrow mask is gone. I can't use that one. So he's like, I need your mask. That's why he goes and beats them up.
Although,
Yeah, but
at that point, Michael has still been able to pin probably a 120-pound woman to the wall. She's a
But that's what I'm saying.
That's
I
what I
don't
was
think that.
talking
I think
about.
Michael's getting more energy, but also the kid is, because I really feel like the kid also is becoming this more super power, because the kid gets more and more strong as the movie goes on.
This is starting
I
to
think
feel a
as
lot
a
like
younger
the Curse of
person-
Thorn.
Yeah, as
The
a
Curse of
younger
Thorn, right?
person,
Yes, yeah.
as a younger
my-
person, he gets even more energy than
I
Michael.
just-
So
I
he's
also
gonna
wa-
win.
I want to mention that
I don't
there's-
know. Like Laurie Strode kind of kicks the shit out of him.
Yeah. I just want to mention there's a lot here that is an homage. I mean, unless I'm wrong, but that is an homage to Halloween 4 and 5. And 6.
Right.
You're right, because the 6, the sort of they've gone whole hog now. There's weird spirit crap moving through Michael, but also 4 and 5. If you remember, between 4 and 5, Michael goes into a tunnel and he gets taken care of by a hermit that he then murders and stuff. There's a lot of stuff that visually is hearkening back to all of that. And I thought that was neat.
They've done that throughout this whole trilogy, because even though they ignore a lot of the sequels, they still even having just watched the 2018 one, like they have that whole bathroom which is
Yes, from
taken
6.
out
Halloween 6.
no,
Yeah.
it's from H2O is what it's from.
Oh,
but
well, wasn't there also the restroom in the whatever? This is going too deep. I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter. Like they have the mask from Halloween 3. Like the people who made these obviously love the entire franchise. They just have chosen to tell this particular sort of ballad of Laurie Strode this particular way.
Can I mention about Laurie Strode? Me personally, I hear exactly what you were saying earlier, Drew, about Laurie, but I really liked her here. I like that because I liked the Laurie of H2O, where she's like broken but unbowed and got a cool haircut. I like that here she's like cleaned her shit up, she's working on a book, she colored her hair, she's feeling good, she's buying fruit, she's like,
I like Laurie better in H2O too, but like I also have to say, like, what makes sense narratively
I hear you.
This.
I do. Yeah.
Like, because they're
It's been a long
essentially
time. She's
two
had a lot of
different
time.
versions.
She's had a lot of time now at this point to grieve and to kind of regroup, and he's.
I don't want to get too personal, but like it felt wrong.
It felt false to you. I get it.
Yeah,
I do.
From my own personal experience with grieving, and also like having a faceless person in a way take a loved one away. Like I feel angry every day about that situation, and that will be
but you still manage to be a joyful person a lot of times.
I
like
fake,
you're not always angry.
Fake
pretty
well.
I get it. Like Bruce Banner is angry all the time.
Yeah,
but Laurie, let me tell you, it would be the difference between reality and fan. I mean, it would be tiresome for her to be maudlin through this whole film, because she already spent the last film in bed. So we got to do something else.
With it. I would have been fine with this if she thought Michael was dead. Like I mean that from the bottom of my heart, and I'm glad she got a happy ending. Like I really am. I just it did not work for me.
I thought for sure she was going to be dead, because in the trailer, this is not a line that's in the movie, but in the trailer, she has a line where she says, "Maybe I have to die too for him to die."
It's because that's in Halloween Kills.
Yeah, well, they were showing it in the trailer for this one. I thought she was going to die.
Yeah, me too. But I'm glad she didn't.
Yeah, same.
I mean, your point, Drew, is that this film, like most films, don't treat trauma right, and that's true. I mean, Mysteries rely on us not treating trauma right, because you have to go around and interview people, or somebody has to like go avenge the death of their son or their daughter or their
Well,
whatever. We never
what's
treat it right.
what's
That's
weird
true.
is this trilogy is really about trauma. But
Mhm.
there's certain things that never quite click with me
Yeah.
100%. But like for Jamie Lee Curtis as an actress, I also to your point, Jason, I understand Jamie Lee Curtis is probably like, I don't want to spend another movie looking haggard.
Right.
Even for her age, she's a beautiful woman. Like, so she probably like they make her look pretty rough in the other two of these. So like,
By the way, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. That was a waste of how beautiful Jamie Lee Curtis is. She's had this
well, like
awesome gray pixie cut for years. If you're a survivalist, having a pixie cut is pretty darn useful. And instead, they've got her wearing this super long frizzy. I don't know what they were thinking. I just literally
I
have
think
no
they
idea.
didn't want her. I think they didn't want her to be attractive. I think they wanted her to be grizzled.
I
It
guess
was
that's true. I guess
the
that's true.
like it
Yeah.
it's again, I'm sure Jamie Lee Curtis is an actress. She probably was like, look, I want to play different emotions in this. And so like, to your point, Jason, I 100% get why they were like, maybe again, this has been my reaction to this movie. Maybe my overall reaction to this movie is one of befuddlement, because I keep going back and forth on it.
No, I understand completely.
I think
And,
that's fair.
yeah. No, it's true.
I certainly don't think it's as bad as like, again, every time I see say it's the worst in the franchise, I'm like,
No.
let's shift
no.
over to that. Let's shift over to this other topic that I had reserved for us, which was the nature of internet conversations, where I've said before, and I don't think it originated with me, that the internet is a centrifugal force machine, where somebody says where a movie is the greatest or the worst, and all of your opinions kind of get slammed to the far walls, and there's no room for ambiguity. And that's gone on here because this is a film that makes a lot of interesting choices. I saw people getting real mean and nasty to one another, like horror fans, who are usually
Weird
like
to
the
me.
nicest people there are, just getting really nasty with one another for like having the temerity to either like this movie or not like this movie. And it was really strange. I literally couldn't believe it. Like, how could you possibly, first of all, how can you get that worked out for a piece of art? Second, I really feel like if art makes you engage with it such that there's something to be debating about when you and your friends go out for yogurt afterwards or whatever, that art is doing something good. But yeah, I've been shocked at this aspect of the movie going experience, where people feel guilty liking it or feel guilty not liking it.
Well, see, I come
I,
out,
you know,
I benefit from the fact that I don't read any of that stuff, so I only know what people
yeah,
are saying when I hear you guys tell me what people are saying, or when I hear like Eric Voss or one of the other YouTube nerds that I listen to, and I don't read the comments under those videos either. So it's literally just what they say. Everybody's saying.
yeah. I am the same way. I have a circle of friends. Like I've said, I've had a good friend. We discussed it at length today on on Messenger, because I was curious, what I was missing. Like I felt like I literally, like, it's kind of what you said, where like I quickly realized my engagement with the art was not there wasn't a correlation. Like, the quality of the art is not the same as my engagement with that art.
Mm.
In this case, I felt that especially.
Yeah, because we've seen poorly
It's
made
got
movies,
so
right?
much. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, it's got so much going for it, and there are, like, seriously so many layers. Like I said, when we were discussing it, and Lori getting into the dark side, like when she goes dark, it's
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
and like, but not mean to Michael. Like there's a survivor. Like when she needs to go to that because it's to protect her, it feels like that kindred. There's that kindred spirit. But I have a select group of people that I really discuss things with, and I think it's because growing up having to make my own way of things, like nobody liked the things I liked, or not many people. I say nobody in the fact that, like, it was so few that it felt at the time like nobody. in the summers when I stayed with my grandparents, for example, I was alone most of like it was me and my grandparents. Not age difference. Like I thought it was cool because I just got to watch everything I wanted to watch, when I was with them. And like I mean, to the point where like when I stayed with my dad and my sister would want to watch things. And I'm like, I don't get cable. Like, let me why can't I, watch what I want to watch and stuff? But it felt very singular. It
Mhm.
felt like I forged my own path. And so I don't care as much. I mean, I care about when it's my own stuff because
Mhm.
you kind of need to care. I try not to because that way can drive you mad as well. But I have a few people that I trust and I want to discuss things with. And the rest of the time it's like, I don't know, I'm an adult. I don't have to care what you think.
Yeah, that's
I,
so
I
true.
I want people to like for example, I wish Dread, for example, had gotten gangbuster response in its
Yeah.
theater run, and we had way more, like we had 5 more Dread sequels, right?
Yeah.
Like that I care about because that's stuff I want. But I don't think I think that, hey, this is the end of this trilogy. So it's like, hey, we're probably gonna get Michael Myers is like pretty solidified in the horror pantheon. We're probably gonna get more, most likely, right? But it's
Absolutely.
everything else, man. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Like the seeing people get so like angry at each other and like
So
also, it's the internet, like just having some perspective and going, just just be nice humans.
Yeah.
Can we
Yes.
be
So,
nice to each other? Because it's
Tony.
really hard.
Tony, to exactly what you're talking about, the time I had written out an entire response to something, and I literally I stopped myself, deleted it, realized that I was getting into because someone had claimed that this was better than the new Hellraiser movie, and I 100% think that is insane. Like, I don't agree with that at all. I mean, admittedly, some of that is like my personal preferences. I like Hellraiser more than I like the Halloween franchise, but like, I just think it's a better movie. And like, I had started to get into I never got to the point, thankfully, but like, you talk about like the tribalism of like horror fandom. Like, I had started to write like a paragraphs long response about how deeply I disagreed. And I looked at myself and I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
why
No,
am I
I've done that
doing
so
this?
many times. I've done that so many times. Like I it's all in my head, about to go through my fingers into a keyboard, and I'm like, wait a second.
Well, and that's
I
why I
could
don't
just
read
go
them.
watch a fun movie.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's why I don't
Wait,
read
what
them
am I
because
doing?
You can just go
I
watch
get
Trick or
very
Treat again. Yeah.
I get very angry, and
I
so
did.
like I won't read anything that might get me all worked up. And this wouldn't, because
I'm with
I
you.
don't care that much. But like, I'm not gonna read stuff about immigration, for example, because it's just I could literally spend all day every day arguing with people about immigration. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. It's just there's
It's like
no
what I've
good to
talked
be had.
about. It's like what I've talked about before. Like when I've read it a bunch of times, 1984, and there's I think it's about 2 Minutes Hate, and it's a great catharsis because what the whole idea is to channel all the hatred at your enemy and then get it out, and then you're more docile because you've had this hatred and you've also directed it. It was great piece of propaganda. But Orwell could have never, he never envisioned that if you want, you can have a 24-hour hate. If you want to engage, if you want to stay up, you can have that 2 minutes can be now as long as you're awake, and that's fascinating to me. And the fact we let, and I am just as guilty.
Mhm.
I cannot cast the first stone by any stretch, but it fascinates me. It utterly fascinates me that this is where we're at now. That if you would like to hate on things, if you want to just boil your blood, you have free access to a 24-hour cycle of, you can wake up and immediately go to your phone and go, ah, right? And not healthy. Rain tries to get, she's like, just, you should not look at devices for, as much. And I agree. But the only saving grace is I have embraced my old age and gone, you know what? It didn't matter when I was younger because I still loved the things I loved.
Mhm.
And I kind of fought hard for them in the ways you fight hard for things that you love as a teenager.
Yeah.
Some in retrospect, sometimes that's silly. Like you look back, like, oh man, I was really worked up about that. That seems like maybe I shouldn't have been, or maybe
That's a
maybe
really,
that's the
really good
defining
point.
characteristic, and maybe that's part of what makes the fire in you burn, right? For the future. Maybe that's stoking that flame for more creative efforts later. That's possible. But also, it's freeing to go, I can just, you know what? I enjoyed that. And if people go, I hated that. Like I find people hate something or like something I like, and I make it a huge point. Like even if my fingers go towards a kind of response, I just skip it because most people aren't there to listen to an actual debate. And then other people, if they liked it, who the hell am I to tell you not to like something?
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Again, my criteria
Yeah.
goes back to like, is it hurting people? Like you can say, hey, this director is, or this actor or somebody is a terrible person. They've done horrible things. Maybe maybe that's not the thing you should give money to.
Can I just
And that
point out,
doesn't mean
Tony?
that the people other people create are also in that creation. So your mileage may vary on that. But in general, that's not everything. And I just go, I look at it like, oh man, this was great. I'm not there to tell you it's not great. Why would I do that? Why would I look at something and go, nah, you're wrong for liking that, and you're terrible for liking
Well,
that.
it's
Like,
ego. That's the straight. Like I was reading, there was this guy on Twitter earlier today, and he was making a thing about how we need to go to Instagram. It's our duty to go to Instagram and harass the actors in this movie to explain to them that it's not a good movie
good
because
grief.
Jerk.
all the rest of you people are you're not I don't know. Basically, I guess he's
That's a
saying the rest of
bully.
people aren't exercising good judgment. I'm like, what why would there be a job? Like, why would you have a duty? It
What a
just doesn't
bully,
make
especially
sense.
because the actors did their best. I mean, they did a great
Also,
job.
the
Like,
actors
whatever.
are great in this. Like,
No,
I
all
don't
the
Yeah.
care
actors are
what you
good.
think
All the
about what
dialogue
works
is
for
good.
the
That's the
The
movie.
thing.
only time you should ever criticize an actor, and I don't really think you should ever do that actually, but if you really feel like the actor was disrespectful to the work, but even then, like, who gives a shit? You know, just leave them alone.
Well,
It
I
is
don't think you should.
super
I think
Well,
you
strange.
can just go, man,
yeah,
that didn't work for
Exactly. I'm
me,
saying,
and
like, that's the
just
only time I would even criticize the actor, but I probably
you
wouldn't do
know,
it to them.
I am emotionally attached to horror movies. So
Mhm.
like, I was like talking about this with Jamie about, like why I felt let down by this. And it's like, well, I'm emotionally I'm invested in the Laurie Strode
sure.
character. I'm invested in Michael Myers. Like, but like never in a million, even if I loathed this to the point where I was foaming in the mouth,
Yeah.
never would I think I'm gonna go leave a nasty comment on Jamie Lee Curtis's
No,
Instagram.
of
I
course
know
That's
it's
not.
Yeah,
insane
that's
it
to
would
just
me.
never occur to you. That is
Well, and
it,
even if you thought that she was terrible, you still wouldn't do that because it's just an obnoxious
now,
thing to
mind
do.
you, there's all kinds of people on the internet, right? Like I've changed a lot since 20, 30 years ago when when I saw Dracula the first time. It made me angry. I wanted to yell at people and all that stuff, and I don't want to do that now. Now I'm like, if you don't like Dracula, just like hang out. There'll be another Dracula in like 6 months, so it doesn't matter. You know,
Well,
like
that's
who
a good
cares?
point. That is a
Yeah.
very good point. And like, look, like one of my good friends, Matt Live, who owns Bat City Comics,
Hmm.
he says that he thinks this is the third best movie in the franchise. I vehemently, like, I
Yeah.
disagree with that so strongly, but I will, like, what my response when I commented on that, agree to disagree. Like,
Yeah.
because at the end
Right.
of the day, it's just a monster movie. Like, it
Right.
doesn't it's there's so as much as
And it's how you,
I
and because you're so sorry, Drew, but
no
because you're
no
so invested in horror is why you feel that way. And also that this speaks volumes on how we all engage with art. And
absolutely.
I think that, I mean, it's the microcosm. Like once you can put that into perspective. Also, I still go with even the parts that I disliked when I first saw this movie. I wanted to, even in this discussion, it's hard to make a damn movie.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and there's other movies I've disliked recently way more than this. And
Well,
I don't.
let me give you an
I
example.
don't care. But like,
If you're
uh,
making a movie and you know what makes a bad film, and you and I have seen it, we've watched lots of movies. What makes a bad film? Films where the dialogue doesn't make any sense. Films where you're constantly losing where you are because the director doesn't know how to make one shot follow another, and so you're constantly confused. You know, films there are a million ways to do this badly. This is not that. This is very competently done. The wonderful thing is all the arguments about it are on the creative choices, because people are like, that's an interesting thing, but it's different from what I expected. That's a great place to be. You know,
It might be that Tony is right also, that this ends up becoming a cult classic within a existing franchise.
It depends on what happens next.
I mean, people hated Halloween 3 for a lot of reasons of why you would hate Halloween 3 at the time.
Yeah.
And then like now I watch it and I didn't go see I didn't even see it on cable because I heard, that's stupid and terrible. And then years later I watched it and went, I get why your expectations weren't what they were. And maybe it should have been like, nobody got the fact like, hey, let's do an anthology. Let's turn Halloween into an anthology thing, right? Because they weren't expecting that. And no one kind of told them like, yo, we decided to do this as an anthology. You guys are on board? Oh, wait. Oh, oops, you're not.
Apparently not.
But it's a solid horror movie. There's so much cool crap in that movie that like, whoa. Oh man, I wish I was like, I wish I would have seen this, like, but I don't know if I would have. I think I would have wanted Michael Myers in that at the time, and that's how that works. So I think that there's still room for a lot of the nuance that we've talked about to sink in a different way. And here's the thing: give me a movie that we can all chew on and discuss and talk about our what we like and don't like, and it's memorable, as opposed to something that just is not memorable at all.
Well, it's like how I was saying
that
I keep deleting Halloween Resurrection from my brain because it's just sort of there. Like this
I mean,
movie,
there are other people probably who enjoy it. I mean, that's the crazy thing, is there is room in the world for liking Halloween Resurrection. It's it's hard to imagine, but true. By the way, do you recognize we've been talking for like an hour and a half? We haven't even talked about the kills in this movie.
The kills are amazing.
I just want to mention,
like, artful in their horror, as far as horror goes.
Yeah,
you want to get about horror movies, like, wow. And they all it is a strange choice too, because what they decided to do, that's again something different.
Yeah,
is they decided. I picked up on this when I first saw it. I was like, that's a different choice. They've decided to make them revenge kills, like a more like not even like a Friday the 13th, like a revenge slasher movie.
Yeah.
As opposed to when Michael usually kills, it's this, I'm just out to carve a horrible bloody path in my way.
Right.
And I'm going to make these weird tableaus, and I'm going to there's no like, oh, you were once, I mean, I guess babysitters, but that's not even it in the same way. It's like, I'm carving a bloody path, and that's what I do in Haddonfield. Whereas all of the Corey kills have a direct, you deserve this feel.
Well, like the gnarly,
whether or not, I mean, I of course, we live in a world where like nobody deserves that, but to him, once he's pushed in that way, they've changed it. They flipped it once again into a series of revenge killing.
Yes.
That turns the kind of the paradigm of what the shape is, and that's interesting. There's some real artfulness to this, especially like the way that they position the camera and do everything in the
junkyard
radio station.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. Oof. Yes. By the way, Diana Prince shows up. That was really cool.
I thought that was her, and I thought that was great.
Yeah, she looked great. The camera loves her.
And the tongue on the turnstile is one of the coolest, like, crazy little.
Although, also, like, cutting to the radio is amazing. Like, all of that.
Let Drew talk. He's trying to talk.
Okay. I'm sorry. I apologize. Drew, go ahead.
Yeah.
They give the best murder scenes to Corey, and I've been wondering for days now, like, once he puts on like essentially a Michael Myers costume, which is sort of great because it's a Halloween costume, but Is he played by the same actor that plays Corey, or is he played by the guy that plays the quote unquote the Shape, like the guy that plays
I don't
Michael
know.
once he has the whole outfit on?
Good
Because
question.
his behavior becomes like he stops talking, like he's got the little head tilt thing.
Yeah, that's true.
This is what I'm
he's
saying. It's from the point that Lori sees him out the window. Remember how he's standing like without the mask? You know, he's just standing. Corey's just standing on the sidewalk, and then he disappears. From that point, he just starts to kind of become. That's why I'm saying they could have made this just like started a new Michael Myers franchise with him as Michael Myers, basically.
but they tried
as
that. They
Michael
already
Myers kind of reincarnated sort of.
they already tried that in the Friday the 13th franchise twice, and people hated it. So
That's why
Yeah, I
they
was
didn't
gonna
actually
say
do it,
that.
but they could have.
yeah. Like people get attached to their monsters, and
Right.
they
It feels like it's not really
Right.
Jason.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because this is all make believe, right? So it's sort of
Yeah.
hilarious. But if you say no, the guy under that mask is not Jason Voorhees. It's just this other guy. It's just this mechanic who wanted to be like Jason. That's somehow not as cool as if you're the original guy.
You
who
mean
died
Michael
by
Myers?
drowning.
Oh no, you are talking about.
No, I'm
Jason.
talking about
Okay.
Jason. I'm talking
Okay.
about like, yeah, you know, but so you know, the new beginning, right? But yeah, people reject it. So they haven't.
I think they
haven't
would
really
have.
done it.
I think in a way that this almost feels satirical of that idea, because like while he does get like the gnarliest, like the thing with the guy's tongue, like
Yeah.
that made me wince. But
Yeah.
All of that, yeah.
You guys
yeah,
see the movie Fallen?
yeah, sure.
Yes.
Okay. To me, that's the only way it would work, is if it was clearly still Michael Myers, just now he's body jumping. You know what I mean? As opposed to just another guy.
Again, they did what you
That's
have
what
just
they did? Yeah, I didn't
described
watch
is
the
the plot of Jason Goes to Hell. When he goes up against Lori, and then he goes up against Michael in the last scene, like he can't stand actually against the two of them when they're completely in their whole like good versus evil
Absolutely.
element, because like Lori schools him, then Michael schools him. Like
Yes.
like it's
Mhm.
like, so in a way they're kind of, which again it's befuddling, because they spent hours in this movie building this guy up, and then it's just like, well, no, you know, the movie's almost over, so you know,
So here
he's
comes Michael.
yeah.
Like he's the prima donna, and you've got to get the lesser performers off the stage.
Well,
Well, I thought that scene where it looks like Lori's gonna shoot herself and she's actually shot a pumpkin, I thought that was terrific.
I loved
Yeah,
it.
it was
Yeah.
super well done. And then she's like, "Did you really think I was going to kill
That was
myself?"
funny.
The kills, you're talking about the kills that Corey does. The thing where he runs over the poor girl behind, like she's
oh,
trapped. So then she's trapped under the fence, and then the whole time she's watching everybody else get killed, and then she gets stepped on. Oh my god, that was so horrific. That whole thing. I was just like, this is really, really upsetting me a lot. But yeah,
oh
but
yeah,
it's
I mean, I don't know why people don't run into the middle of the junkyard, but then we wouldn't get cool kills.
well,
But whoa,
they're
is that
supposedly
all
trying
of
to help
that is
her.
just all of that? Yeah, it's so much meaner than everything else. Like that sequence where everything just starts to go off the rails and it becomes a revenge thing for a while was so brutal.
Yeah.
Well,
And
he kills
and amazing. I
differently.
mean, it was yeah.
He
It's-
doesn't, like, as much as he's trying to imitate Michael because he wants to be the new boogeyman. He, like, the vicious, like Michael's very. This is the more things that's more across all the different incarnations. This is one of the things that's pretty standard about it, is Michael is very pragmatic about the way he kills people. Stab, puncture, keep moving. Keep moving, like,
although he does set up all those, like,
but that's like after they're
inventive
dead.
motifs. That's true.
Like, whereas with this guy, like I don't think Michael Myers would hold somebody's head and chop their tongue out like that.
I don't know.
Right.
Michael Myers dipped that girl like 30 times in the boiling hot tub.
Yeah, I
So
guess that's
he's,
true.
you
Yeah.
know, he's both vicious, but what's the difference here is Michael was always about building the sort of cool tableaus
Well,
afterwards,
it's
and
also
this guy doesn't do that.
other than Laurie Strode, it doesn't feel particularly personal. Like if like you come across him, he's going to kill you.
Yeah,
Like
he
it's
just like Tony said it right. He's just a lawnmower moving through the town. He
yeah.
chops down whatever he runs into. Do you remember you know what? I enjoy different aspects of a lot of those middle films that everybody rejects. You know, there are a lot of things in like 6 and 5 and 4 that I enjoy. We should wrap it up. We should get our final thoughts, and then
Well, I think before we do, we need to talk about the fact that they really, really, really made sure that Myers isn't coming back this time.
Yeah. he
That was
it
great.
becomes to the point where it becomes like a Shirley Jackson novel almost.
Yeah.
yes.
Like,
Oh
the
yeah,
town-
it's wonderful.
Yeah, we didn't talk
The
about
town
that.
will
Yeah,
heal.
right. So Lori gets him on the counter in the kitchen
He
and crucifies him. Basically
Yes.
crucifies him. Like one arm is not,
Yeah.
but yeah. But anyway, crucified like attaches him to the kitchen counter with knives. Then gets some extra knives just for good measure, and then she slits his throat. She doesn't cut off his head though, which I thought she was going to do. But anyway, slits his throat. He's just gushing blood everywhere. And then they proceed, once they're sure he's dead, to tie him to the top of the car like a Christmas tree and parade him through the town so that
This is so
everyone can
hilariously
see
crazy.
him.
I love
They
it.
all parade, including the little boy from the last movie.
Yeah.
They all like walk behind him in this weird morose
Procession.
Funeral
A midnight
Yeah.
procession.
Yeah.
for a funeral procession, and then they take him to the junkyard and put him in the whatever the
It's
the
an industrial
thing
shredder.
is. Yeah.
Yes. It's
And
for,
oh
yeah.
my god, and he pops like a balloon, all this blood. Ugh, God,
His
that's
skull
I
gross.
mean,
separates
that's
into
kind of what
pieces.
they had to do. Like
Yeah, they
at
had to
this
do that.
point,
They had to
because
do
like
that.
like once you have walked out of a burning building unscathed, I don't think that there's the line in the movie of, oh, this is not the way we're supposed to do things, and the sheriff is like, well, it is tonight. Like
Yeah.
if you're in Haddonfield, you're like, we're gonna mulch this guy because
Right.
we cannot
But
be
I'm telling
sure.
you, I don't care if they already did it in the other movies. The only way it works at this point, as if they were to make another movie, is if in fact he did transfer his soul completely to Corey, and then Corey's body disappears and Corey's just up and about. That's the only way it works.
Or if you
But
go
I don't care if they were.
supernatural and the worm food pile of meat that is
Then it's
formerly
like
Michael
Well, let's-
legit
gets struck
Dracula
by lightning and becomes
Well, I
Michael
mean,
again.
if it was
Yeah.
Jason Voorhees, yes.
or Dracula.
They would totally
um,
do that.
but-
I thought if go ahead, Drew.
Well, like I think what they're probably going to do is just discontinue this continuity and do another reboot. Like
Yeah,
they don't
sure.
they don't even have to be clever
I
about
know,
it.
but I'm saying if they wanted to, they could make it.
They could. Like they could come up with a bazillion different bullshit reasons that
Sure,
Michael
sure, sure.
Myers could
Absolutely.
come back, but
Absolutely. In a
they
heartbeat.
don't have to. They do, in this day and age of reboots and rebootals and legacy sequels and all the different things, like they don't even have to be clever. They can just say continuity do over, and
Yeah.
everybody will be fine with it.
Yeah.
So I had two things, by the way, on this. I thought the way that the kind of framing of Laurie by Corey was interesting.
mm,
And how this kind of plans within plans kind of goes when he kills himself. That I thought was like, wow, this is going to work for some people, this is going to be really not work for others. And for a second, also something I thought was interesting is they almost go, what if Laurie just joined him in the wood chipper? Like I didn't think they were really going to do it, but I had for a second or two, I was like, they aren't going to. Would she be so overcome with grief and just like, I am going to make sure that my responsibility to this town, like this could never happen again because of my relation with Michael. It didn't happen, but there's that moment where she's standing there and I was like, oh, is this how this is going to end? This is not expected. And it doesn't. And I like what happens, I think
Yeah.
that would probably be a step too far for many people. But it gave me pause. Like, she's not really gonna do that.
Well,
just
I
to
think that's
ensure
because
that.
of
And
the
that
way
was
we started. Like,
sure.
if they start out by killing a kid, like, again, the one thing this movie is good at is it did keep you on its toes, like 100%,
Mhm,
100%.
Yeah. So, all right. I know that we've been going for about 2 hours, so I want to get our final thoughts. And I would also like, if you don't mind, I would really love to hear what your favorite movie in the Halloween series, besides the original. Let's just take it for granted that everybody loves the original. Blah blah blah. Everybody loves the original. I want to know what your favorite. If people are like, you know what, sure, watch Halloween Ends, but I want you to go watch X. Tell me what that is. But what are your final thoughts? Let's start with Julia. Julia, hello. What are your final thoughts, and which Halloween movie should people go watch?
Well,
And it's
I mean, I
okay if
think
the answer is none. It's fine. But go ahead.
no.
Yeah.
I think that this film has been so fun to talk about. I really enjoyed the conversation. I think I think there's way more to like than to not like, at least from my perspective. And the things I didn't like were different than maybe the things other people didn't like. Because, like I said, for me, it's the fact that there's so much gore. It's like the number one thing. But but obviously that makes it a good slasher movie for people. I think, Jason, you'll have to just remind me, because I'm not good at, I don't have a good memory for which one's which, but probably, was it 2018 that I liked the most, or H2O? There was one that I really loved, but I can't remember which one now.
H2O, she has the short hair, and she locks herself in with Michael in a private school and goes hunting him on the streets of the campus.
I don't know. I just know that one of those two, I was like, this is awesome, but I can't remember which one, so I apologize.
2018 is basically a remake of 1978.
Yeah, so probably the 2018 one is my favorite.
Yep. Okay, excellent. Who did I go to next? It was Drew next. Drew, what about you?
I start where I finish. I still think that the 2018 one was very, very good. Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. They have their stuff that I think that makes them fun, but I don't think they hold up to where this trilogy begins at. That being said, like I when I said I feel befuddled by this movie, I think that's the best description of how I feel with it. So favorite Halloween movie that isn't John Carpenter's original, I guess either Halloween 3 or Halloween H2O. I really like those two. Like, I guess if we're sticking with the Michael Myers ones only, probably Halloween H2O, because I feel like
pretty great. It is.
Yeah, and it also feels really complete unto itself. So if we're doing like the choose your own adventure, I do like the visceral ending of that movie of Laurie just lopping off Michael Myers. But yeah.
And to me, there's a timeline that ends at H2O. Like,
yes,
that's absolutely, you can finish watching H2O and not bother going on to Halloween Resurrection if you don't want to. And
I do not.
Yeah. Thank you. Tony, what about you?
So again, you can't beat the original, in my opinion. Like, that's just the one. My unpopular opinion is purely because of time, place, and circumstances. But in my head, even though rewatching it doesn't, maybe not as good. In my head, Halloween 5 was the first one I ever saw in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And something about it really worked. And I remember, I've since watched it, and the ending maybe doesn't hold up in the way that it was in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
But the dude in black throughout that, and then the smoke and the haze of him busting out Michael at the end, I thought was so super cool at the time. Because again, I didn't have as much invested into the franchise as, perhaps people who had been, had skipped 3 or watched 3 and got angry, and then 4 kind of brought it back for them. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe it was never, that was it. Or 2 they disliked or they liked. I just thought for some reason, 5 was in town at the tiny theater that I had to drive a long ways to go to. And I don't know, warts and all, I have just a soft spot for that because I guess nostalgia and just how it impacted, like, seeing horror in the theater and kind of the way that they were trying. I I still think that there's some really interesting bits. Of course, they didn't stick the landing, but the Thorn thing in my head, in the age where you didn't have the internet and you just kind of things just ran around in your mind, you know,
Yeah.
and you just left to your own devices. You're like, wow, what was that? And how could it? What if he's this? And what's the supernatural thing? And you only like you had your friends to talk to, if
Yeah.
that. And I had my stepbrother, maybe, but in general, it was just me kind of ruminating on things. And all of that worked for me in a way, I think, because of the time. If I thought about it now, like if I had seen it in a different time period, maybe it wouldn't have had the impact. But I'm gonna go with 5 just because that's, again, it's how you experience art. It's like the difference
Absolutely.
between, it could be that you experience a painting in a book, and how different it is sometimes when you see a painting in a museum and you can really like see all the strokes and the size or tiny, or how small sometimes a painting is that you didn't think was even that small. And there's something about that, about 5, that just, I don't know, I think it'll always have a soft place in my heart, even though there are better movies, because 2018 I still really liked and went, wow, this is the way you do a reboot sequel.
Sure.
Like, this is really good. I don't know.
That's wonderful.
I'm sticking with that.
This movie, there are things in it that I would have done differently, but I'm really amazed at how lively the discussion of this one has been, and how much room there is to discuss, what you liked and what you didn't. Personally, I really love that 4, 5, and 6 cycle. So, and to me, they're almost one movie. I mean, you just have a whole timeline of the return of Michael Myers. But I would say go with 4 to start with, because if you dig it, you got 2 more movies in that cycle. But I love the way Haddonfield appears there, where suddenly Haddonfield looks like a farming community, and it's like you get the impression that it's way out in the middle of nowhere. I love the way it's presented there. And I'm not saying that's even true to the rest of the movies, but in that one, it looks like a tiny town. And that's pretty cool. All right. Wow. So let's get our endorsements. Starting with Julia. What have you been watching, listening to, would like to expose us to? What do you got going on?
I don't know that I have anything new this week. I can't remember. I do want to take back something I've said in the past, which is last week I said I didn't really love Andor, but this last episode of Andor was so good.
Huh.
It was really great. So I whatever this last week was, I can't remember if it's 8 or I don't know what number it was, but anyway, that was an awesome. Anyway, that was a really awesome episode. So I want to kind of because I hadn't been negging on it, so that's all. But and then She-Hulk was a great finale as well. So
So
this just the same stuff I've been talking about.
Excellent. No worries. Drew, what about you?
I've almost been watching too much stuff because I had COVID for at least
Mm.
2 weeks.
I'm glad to hear you sounding healthy.
I'm
Healthier anyway.
Yeah, I am about 89%. Like, I'm still having a lot of fatigue and pain, but like I'm coming up negative on tests, so that's good.
There you go.
Yeah. So, I watched Halloween Ends on Peacock, and because of that, I now have a Peacock subscription for a month, which is kind of cool. And I do think that they have a lot of fun stuff on their Halloween selection. They have movies, first of all, broken down by decade, and they have a lot of good Universal monsters. So they have a lot of Universal monsters stuff in their 30s and 40s selection. They have a lot of Godzilla stuff as well. A lot of weird, obscure 80s horror too. I just watched it's a bad movie, mind you, but I just watched Dracula's Widow, the another Dracula movie directed by a different member of the Coppola family, believe it or not.
Dracula's Widow.
Dracula's Widow.
You talking about the thing with Sylvia Crystal?
It might be. Yeah.
Let's see.
Does the lead actor kind of look like a bargain basement member of a goth rock band?
Yeah. Well, that is
And
Lenny
he
Von
owns.
Dolan, who used to be on Twin Peaks. And yeah, that movie has Sylvia Crystal. So cool. Yes.
Yeah.
Neat movie.
But the thing I recommend the most, if you're on there, that I have gotten the most enjoyment is Jamie and I have been going back and rewatching old episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Mhm.
Including some that I hadn't seen. Like I didn't realize that there was Alfred Hitchcock Hour, not Presents, but Alfred Hitchcock Hour that starred Christopher Lee.
No kidding.
There's like there's a lot of cool stuff that will keep you in the spooky season mood on there. But I like above everything, I highly recommend going back and checking out Alfred Hitchcock Presents. I want to plug, please, right now. Halloween Man has moved over from Comixology to Global Comics. That's comics with an X. It is all available on there for free right now. So I'm encouraging you to check out Globes, but also check out Halloween Man on there. And if you make yourself a profile, please do me a favor. Follow Halloween Man on there so you can get all the updates on when new issues are coming out, because there are brand spanking new issues coming out very, very soon.
Very cool. Thank you very, very much. By the way, Lenny Von Dolan, that guy that you were mentioning who stars in Dracula's Widow, that guy, not only did he come from Goliad, but in Texas, but he went to UT in theater and went to Loretto Heights, which is this weird ass ghost town of a college campus here in Denver still. And I
Cool.
hope, yeah. So anyway, he's
Did you realize that movie was directed by a member of the Coppola family?
I did not. No, I had no idea about the I don't even know about who had made that. No idea. That's cool.
That is very, very, very strange to me.
Yeah. That I didn't know it. Yeah. there are huge gaping holes in my knowledge about these films. Okay, Tony, what about you?
I've been watching a lot of stuff. By the way, Julia, I've been enjoying, even though I find it to be a little cold, I think the double-edged sword of Andor is exactly kind of what I kind of have been wanting. It's a show full of, it takes place in Star Wars, the Star Wars universe, that doesn't have to, it's not a constant, by the way, remember the thing from Star Wars where we're at?
Yeah. I don't know.
To
listen to the nerds tell it, there's a lot of that. Because they managed to find every line.
I guess that there's I think if you're really invested in the lore, which I kind of fell out of a while back. Not that I don't like Star Wars, but I was not invested for a long time, even though in my youth there was nothing better than Star Wars.
Sure, of course.
I didn't, so for me, I get that I'm probably missing a few things that people are picking up on, but in general, it feels like it's characters that I'm like, oh, hey, there's this Mon Mothma subplot and that kind of stuff. Like that stuff's all cool, but I've just really been enjoying it, even though at first it felt kind of cold. That, hey, look, it's this thing that's got all the Star Wars bits, and but it's separate enough. I started really liking that. But in my endorsements are definitely like Criterion Collection, Criterion Channel, if you have the Criterion Channel, and if you feel like it's kind of later in the month, but if you felt like picking it up for a week or a month, wow. Their 80s horror section, which includes like The Hidden and The Keep, and a bunch of great 80s horror. And they have an Ishiro Honda section. And I've been digging that. Those prints look so good. We covered some of them, like Atragon and Matango are on there, and they look amazing. I watched Dogora, which I wish we had covered. Like, I see all these movies, I'm like, I wish we were covering these too. And I still need to see Space Amoeba, the print that's on there. They have the Gargantua's movies. So the Ishiro Honda stuff, I shouldn't get my hopes up, but I really, Varan also is up there. I really hope that they do a new Criterion Honda box set, because they look really great. I think Mysterians is another great one. There's so much cool stuff. Mysterians kind of suffers from like the print that they got evident. Like there's some scenes that have kind of scratches, and I think that's probably the best it's going to look, but boy, does it look nice. I also watched Return of the Living Dead, the UHD, the 4K, and man, also for the first time, maybe other people caught it, but seeing it on a projector really hit home. It must have been a really hot shoot because everybody in there, and I never really noticed it in previous, is really sweaty.
Huh.
Like everybody's sweaty in the graveyard scene to the extent we're like, wow, it must have been really hot when they
Yeah,
shot
I have
this.
no doubt. Yeah.
But there's so many little details that like having, Shout Factory, there's all kinds of extras. It's 3 discs, so it's like the UHD and the Blu-ray and a special features disc. And you can watch the original soundtrack, which includes the music and the original Tarman and Sin War Cops paramedics voices, which aren't in the newer versions for numerous reasons that you can read online. I also, kicked out my German copy of the Blu-ray for Trick or Treat. Boy, do I love that movie. It just works every time. I'm just so wow. So between Ishiro Honda movies and Trick or Treat, so I have a week. I'm transitioning jobs, and so I have a week where mostly my job is to get this album together for the next Visits of Mars album. Like I have to really put my nose to the grindstone and make sure that things are tight before we go in the studio. But when I'm not doing that, I've been watching Ishiro Honda movies and then, various horror movies throughout. But wow, is that Return of the Living Dead? It looks so good. That print looks just amazing. And I've also been playing Yakuza 6, which I love because on the one hand, there's a big Yakuza drama in it. And then also you rescue kittens and fight ghosts in a cemetery. Samurai pirate ghosts. That's what I love about that franchise. There's like a Yakuza drama, and that's all solid Yakuza drama. But then in one of them, like you might do a thing where you fight a gigantic robotic Roomba. So I am a sucker for absurdity, and I love the fact that you have a tough guy who then one of the missions is also like rescue all these stray cats for a cat cafe.
In Hocus Pocus 2, Kathy Najimy's character uses Roombas instead of a broom to fly around.
Oh
It's
yeah, we
really
watched
funny.
that
It's
today.
pretty great.
Watch that
It
tonight.
has been so fun on the internet, by the way, to see people reacting to Hocus Pocus and people who aren't crazy about the movie, and just the flood of people who are just not gonna have it, are like, nope, I will not hear any negative comments about Hocus Pocus. By the way, I watched it. I'd never seen it before. I loved it. I loved Hocus Pocus, and I liked.
I am a bit surprised by that.
Oh yeah, no, okay, well that can be my endorsement. I generally I often don't really like horror comedy, and I don't really like horror that well, these are teenagers. I'm not usually crazy about movies that are about kids. But these are teenagers. I liked it. I don't know what to say. I really like Bette Midler, I guess.
It has a nice fall vibe to it. Like
Yes.
it's corny because it's a Disney movie.
It's very corny, but if you
but-
are ready for that, then that's fine. In other words, yeah, go ahead.
I did not like the sequel, but I also do not feel like going back out on the internet and pissing in people's Cheerios about it.
That always amazes me, but also to me, I was like, what's not to like? Honestly, next weekend we're going to be talking about The Midnight Hour, which is very similar, in
Indeed.
tone. So,
there was something, Tony talking. There was something that when you're done, Jason, I would like to go back and add.
Yeah.
Oh, I watched on Shudder 100 Monsters a couple of days ago, which is a yokai movie, and that thing is gorgeous. Like, what a pretty movie. Oh man, I loved that movie so much. So if you have Shudder, watch 100 Monsters. Now I'm done.
Cool.
There's a yokai trilogy. Is 100 Monsters part of the trilogy? Because there's several different
I don't know. I don't know the yokai stuff. That's
yeah, I'm trying to think, because it's like with ghosts or along with ghosts, and I want to say that it's part of that. The first one's 100 Monsters. Yeah, there's 2 more, Drew.
Well, that's something to look forward to.
Because there's a beautiful box set of that as well.
Do you remember in the 80s there was a revival of the Alfred Hitchcock program where they
Yep.
Yeah,
they
like
did
85 or something, right?
remakes? They did remakes of the originals plus some new ones. I remember that.
No,
It was
I'm
cool.
the most triggered of anything by, you know, like as I've said many times about like buried alive stories. And there was this one that was like based on that story where this woman wants to break out of jail or
Yeah,
whatever.
she's in prison. Yes.
She gets the coroner guy. She pays the coroner guy to like put her in with no, she gets in.
You
She
got
gets
it.
in
You
with
got it right.
she,
Yeah.
she pays the coroner to get her out after the body the next person to die after their body is removed from the prison. Get her out. You know, he's gonna take her out, but then she realizes that he's the one in the coffin once she gets buried. Oh my God, I've like had nightmares about that one my whole life ever since I saw that. I don't even remember what it's called, but ugh. Anyway, all right, we should go.
Absolutely.
We should.
Well, everybody, I look forward to getting together next weekend to talk about the last movie of our Halloween cycle. Is it? Actually, no. I think there's one more after that. This
But
has
we
been
were doing Frankenstein meets the Wolfman.
That's right. So we got 2 more to go. This is a
And
really
I
fun cycle.
will be out next weekend, so hopefully maybe Jamie or somebody can sub for me, but I'll be
Yeah,
in Chicago. Or coming
Jamie
back.
might actually be Jamie may actually be able to do that. This
Yeah.
You might dig it. Yeah,
coming weekend.
you can ask her. So
Awesome.
let's see. All right, but thank you everybody. I appreciate all that you've discussed today, and those of you listening, if anybody's still listening, feel free to come to the Facebook page and engage on this. This is a movie that definitely engenders conversation. So oh, and we want to hear your own
But
recommendations.
be nice about it.
Yeah, let's be nice. Let's all be respectful. But I also want to hear your endorsements, like stuff you've come across that you think, you know, any of us might be interested in. Because we're always interested in discovering new horror. I discovered a new one the other day called The Beast from Haunted Cave from 1959, a movie I did not know existed and blew my mind. It was so fascinating. So
Oh, I think I watched that
it's got a
watched
spider
that.
monster that ties people to the wall while they're alive and leaves them
Okay,
there.
but endorsements time is over.
Yeah.
Man.
Yes. My point is, I did not know that movie existed. All right. Everybody,
I gotta go.
Yep.
yes.
To
Adios,
Julia's
guys.
turn
I
All
will
right,
see you soon.
bye.
Good night.
Bye.